It's a Merry Christmas today on Around Kansas. In fact, Deb's special guest is Santa himself. She's also talking about reindeer and how this Christmas icon came to be. Then Kyle Bauer visits with Tom Holmquist about the little town of Smolan, Kansas, and the Salemsborg Church. Ron Wilson shares the revenge of the Farmall, and we end with Michelle Martin giving us a glimpse of what Christmas was like on the frontier in the 19th century.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Merry Christmas! I have been telling y'all that I am well connected, and man, this proves it. Santa is right here with me. Before he headed back to the North Pole, God bless you, Santa, for taking time out to join us in Around Kansas.
Glad to do it. A little tired, but I'm glad to do it.
Well, I think you look good for having circumnavigated the globe last night. I think you're looking pretty good.
Why, thank you.
So, and I want to thank you for all the things that I got. All you people who said I was too naughty, that Santa would bring me coal and switches. They were wrong, weren't they, Santa? Don't look at that list, Santa. Put that list away. Yeah. Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. So, how was your trip this year? Good?
It's very good. Very good. A little chilly, but okay. The Rudolph's nose got a little dim on the way.
Did it?
Bothered me a little bit, but we got through it.
So does his nose like flash all year long, or is it just at Christmas time?
No, we use the Energizer Bunny. He helps us out every year. So they're off during the rest of the year, and only during Christmas.
I gotta really come up and see you sometime.
You do?
Would you let me in if I came to the North Pole to see you?
I will.
See, I told you,
But I'll be dressed in
I
green.
am really connected.
As an elf, because we're busy getting ready for the next year. All the toys we make.
So I have another question for you. So all these things you've always wanted to ask Santa. So compared to years in the past, how good were people this year?
Well, I had to check that list twice, and sometimes 3 times. It's a little tougher this year, but some things you just overlook.
Oh, well.
You want it to be a joyful time and bring joy to all.
So you just overlook those minor
I do.
transgressions?
I do.
God, just
And you're
like,
forgiven.
Just like Judge Judy, yeah, that's it. Or not. So Santa, Mrs. Claus is waiting for you back home, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
And so when you get back home, what will Mrs. Claus do to make you more comfortable?
First off, probably a chicken noodle soup and some brownies, some hot chocolate.
There's just not much chicken noodle soup doesn't cure, is there?
It cures a lot. Yep. Probably a good foot rub.
She is a saint, I'm telling you.
She
She is a saint.
As all you earth people say, she's a keeper.
She's a keeper. That's right. She's a keeper. Folks, I'm so thrilled to have Santa with us this morning, and we're sitting in front of the Fort Wallace tree because it was so pretty. I spent a lot of time decorating that tree, so I wanted to show it off a little bit. Had a wonderful time at Fort Wallace, and we got a wonderful show for you today. Out of all the shows and all the land, Santa chose to join me this morning. I just can't tell you how excited I am.
When the reindeer got wind of this, they brought me right down on the way back to the North Pole and said, we got to stop. You got to go see Deb. So here we are.
God bless those reindeer. Yeah, I've been mucking out stalls, you can see. So yeah, reindeer stalls, cow stalls. Having a partner who is a veterinarian does give me this special, what is it, cachet with animals.
That
Yeah.
gives me an idea. I can take the reindeer right over to him.
Yeah,
Have him check 'em
yeah,
out.
that's right. Check up from Dr. Jake before they head back to the North Pole. Great idea. Stay with us.
In 1821, a trade route was opened from Missouri in the United States across prairies and mountains to Mexico. In 2021, we will mark 200 years of epic conflicts and grand adventures, larger-than-life personalities, and sweeping landscapes. Join us on an historic journey. The Santa Fe Trail lives on.
Find us on social media or santafetrail.org. For a few weeks each year, Historic Lecompton turns into a living Christmas village as dozens of volunteers, thousands of ornaments, and hundreds of trees come together to transform the Territorial Capitol Museum into a Christmas postcard. The spirit of Christmas engulfs the town and all who visit.
Merry Christmas from Historic Lecompton.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
My name's Karen Cope, and I have multiple sclerosis. When you have MS, on the outside you look great, but you know what's really going on in the inside is chronic body pain, chronic fatigue. And there's lots of days that I'd wake up and say, oh, please God, help me get through this day. You know, after stem cells, Chloe, my youngest daughter, she was asked by my father-in-law, how's your mom doing? And Chloe said, Grandpa, I've never had a mom like this before, because she was 8 when I was diagnosed, and she really had no other memory of me but being sick. It's really the simple things that we do as a family, like play cards, and to be able to win at cards. You know, they all laugh because I used to repeat myself and say, what hand are we on? You know, where are we at? And it's just been really a true blessing from God, and we're really thankful.
This segment brought to you by the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center in Oakley.
Well, my very special guest this morning, none other than Santa Claus. And Santa, you couldn't make it around the world without your reindeer.
That is very true. They are wonderful, they're quick, and well experienced after all these years.
After all these years, so how do they stay in shape?
Oh, we have a workout plan that we do 6 months out of the year, because the other 6 months they're asleep.
Asleep.
They're resting.
Asleep.
And lots of veggies, no carbs during those 6 months, but then we carb up so they can last all evening.
So they got all that energy to get around the world.
We slick down their fur so they can fly through the air with the greatest of ease, and they do well.
You just got it all planned out. Well, let's take a look at how reindeer really live on and off Santa's workshop property.
Reindeer are domesticated caribou, hence the rein part of the name, as in the reins that hitch the deer to the sled, or sleigh in the case of Santa. Caribou live near the North Pole in Siberia, Europe, and North America. For humans in that part of the world, the available caribou became the most natural choice to harness for duties around the homestead. Scientists believe that the difference in the wild and domesticated animals, caribou tend to be larger and faster, are due in fact to the difference in living in the wild and living and working on farms. The first reference to Santa's sleigh being pulled by a reindeer appears in Old Santa Claus with much delight, a poem published in a children's book in 1821, though the name of the author has been lost to time. It was Clement C. Moore's A Visit from St. Nicholas a couple of years later that cemented the image of the flying reindeer in the public's imagination. Who can't recite the words from that epic story? More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Dunder and Blixen. Yes, Dunder and Blixen. The Dutch words for thunder and lightning, which gradually became Donder and Blitzen in German and eventually Donner and Blitzen, according to historian Edmund Clarence. Rudolph came along in 1939, a verse written by Robert May as a promotion for Montgomery Ward department stores. When Gene Autry recorded the song during the 1949 Christmas season, the red-nosed reindeer became a permanent fixture on Santa's team. Apparently, the caribou's nose does turn red in certain conditions, like when pulling Santa's sleigh, perhaps?
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun. For a few weeks each year, historic Lecompton turns into a living Christmas village as dozens of volunteers, thousands of ornaments, and hundreds of trees come together to transform the territorial Capitol Museum into a Christmas postcard. The spirit of Christmas engulfs the town and all who visit.
Merry Christmas from historic Lecompton.
Okay, looks like it's time for our tour. Welcome to the Fort Wallace Museum. Here at the museum, you're going to find some really interesting stuff, like our replica stagecoach from the Butterfield Overland Dispatch. We've got facades from the fort buildings. We've got an 1870s flag. There's a plesiosaur that was discovered locally. We've got the Ray pump organ collection. We're a little bitty place with a great big story, and we'd love to have you.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
This is Kyle Bauer. My guest today is Tom Holmquist. He is a farmer and writer in the Smolan, Kansas area. Smolan, Kansas appears to have stole the name from Sweden. It's a community between Salina and Lindsborg. What generally happened early on as people got there is they established a church, both in a building and as a cultural group.
There was a particular man who was named C.J. Brodeen, and he was a lay missionary within the Lutheran Church, and he was the leader of the group that came out. Led this group, and they arrived by train in late February of 1869, and they came right out here south of Salina and started to establish their homestead. They built dugouts, sometimes sod houses, and a few of them then went up into the Smoky Hill Bluffs and carved out stones and made a few stone houses. But this Brodeen, he had a bigger mission, and he wanted to see that there was a church and really a community established here. So he went around to all the different homesteads, and most of these people had been in the same church as him back in Illinois. He called them together for a meeting, and they met in the second week of June of 1869 at his homestead, made plans to form a congregation. One of the first decisions they wanted to make was what to call this congregation. And Brodeen suggested that the name be Salemsborg, which translates from the Swedish as peaceful mountain. From peaceful mountain, what he was referring to was that this truly was the end of their journey, that this is where they were going to find a home. And spend the rest of their lives.
So the church today is at the same location it was originally?
It was, and it still remains there today. The first thing that they did then was to organize this church and then to build a building. So, of course, there are no trees here at that time, and so they went to the top of a nearby hill, just a slight rise above the rest of the valley, and they started to dig, and they dug a dugout church. It was half underground and half above ground with sod. And so the first church that was here was what we still refer to as the sod church.
And how close is that to where the modern church is today?
About 20 steps to the south.
Now, we've talked about Smolan and we've talked about Lindsborg. Where does the church lie from any of those towns?
From Lindsborg, it is 8 miles north on what we call the Burma Road. And you come over the hill and you see this magnificent cathedral standing alone out in the countryside on top of this hill. And it is a beautiful sight to see.
Does it still operate every week?
It does. It has a congregation of nearly 600 people. The pews are full every Sunday. It is truly the center of the whole community out here between Salina and Lindsborg. There are no businesses anymore and such, and not even a gas station in Smolan. The whole community really centers around the church.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well on their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, and we're glad to answer and work with you.
For a few weeks each year, historic Lecompton turns into a living Christmas village as dozens of volunteers, thousands of ornaments, and hundreds of trees come together to transform the Territorial Capitol Museum into a Christmas postcard. The spirit of Christmas engulfs the town and all who visit.
Merry Christmas from historic Lecompton.
Kansans have a new choice for Medicare Supplement insurance plans. With Medicare Supplement insurance plans from Kansas Farm Bureau, you have access to 4 levels of coverage, affordable rates, and service from an organization that's served Kansans for more than 100 years. For more information on Kansas Farm Bureau Medicare Supplement plans, including rates and to apply, visit kfbhealthplans.com.
Kim Mannering with Hardy Insurance. Today we will talk about umbrella coverage. Did you know that if you're held liable in any type of accident, the judgment can claim your assets? Please give me a call so we can discuss. 316-945-6733.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agamandkansas.com. This segment brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook. Let us help feed your family.
Nowadays, farmers have modern tractors with all the technology and all the features. But the tractor that I grew up driving was an old Super H Farmall. This poem is entitled Revenge of the Farmall. My dad bought a tractor used way back in 1958. It was a Farmall Super H, which he thought was great. Yet it wasn't big or fancy, had no roll bar, cab, or radio, no 3-point hitch or power steering to turn it just so. He had more modern, bigger tractors in the ensuing years, but he always kept the old Farmall around the old place here. Decades later, when we moved back to the place, I drove the Farmall but felt it should be replaced. We went to the dealer and bought a brand new tractor with all the tools and features which you would think would be a factor. It had a front-end loader and a great hydraulic system with so many wonderful features that I had never missed them. When there was work to do, I'd pick the new tractor instead and leave the old Farmall parked out back in the shed. One wintry day, I had to take a load across the meadow. I fired up the brand new tractor and moved across the snow, when suddenly the tractor's front end went down with a whack into a snow-filled ditch. I couldn't go forward, couldn't go back. The new tractor had front wheel assist, but it was in too deep, tires spinning on the slippery slope where the angle was so steep. I tried to rock it, but there was no such luck. Thanks to my bad judgment, the new tractor had gotten stuck. I considered my options. I trudged back with sinking heart and decided to see if that old ignored Farmall would even start. To my surprise, the engine caught with a growl and then a shout. We drove across the meadow and pulled that brand new tractor out. It must have been a funny sight to see this curious trip, like watching a Model T help out a new spaceship. Now things are back to normal. When there's a tractor to be used, I choose the brand new tractor because of all that it can do. But Dad was right, and just because his thinking was so sound, I'll embrace the new technology, but I'll keep the old Farmall around. Happy trail.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Trust and leadership are critical to success at Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center in Manhattan. Just ask Coach Bill Snyder.
People of the Regenerative Center do care about others. I've been highly impressed with those people that have that vested interest and try to help people become better. The center really is a wonderful thing here in Manhattan, first of its kind, and we're on the cutting edge of what lies ahead.
Find out more about the trusted leader in stem cell therapy at kansasrmc.com. Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Kim Mannering with Hardy Insurance. Today we will talk about umbrella coverage. Did you know that if you're held liable in any type of accident, the judgment can claim your assets? Please give me a call so we can discuss. 316-945-6733.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Supply. This segment brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Well, Michelle, I bet you've never been introduced by Santa Claus this morning. That's why you're working with me, because I just get all the best people on my show. So Michelle is coming to us from sunny Arizona this morning, but she's talking about Christmas at the Frontier Forts.
Wow, Frontier Fort. Michelle, nice to hear from you.
Merry Christmas, Michelle.
Merry Christmas, Deb. Santa, thank you for the goodies that were in my stocking this morning. You knew I'd been a good girl. And Merry Christmas to all our viewers. Today, as we celebrate Christmas, let's take a trip back in time and see how our servicemen and their families celebrated the holiday in the 19th century at frontier forts across the American West. Our first Christmas on the frontier was ever so pleasant. Frances Marie Antoinette Mac Ray in 1872. We had quite a little Christmas. Several women of the garrison sent pretty little gifts to me, she recalled. It was so kind of them to remember that I might be homesick just now. Frances's Christmas at Fort Lyon, Colorado Territory was not unlike those experienced by the men and women stationed at Forts Leavenworth, Larned, Riley, Hayes, Harker, and Wallace during the 19th century. From the highest-ranking officers to laundresses, and bachelor officers to enlisted men, everyone awaited Christmas, the arrival of Santa Claus, and joy to be had on post. From traditional Christmas trees and parlors
to evergreen branches decorated and hung on walls, to makeshift trees made from scrap of fabric, dried flowers, and Chinese lanterns, men, women, and children at frontier forts in the West made sure that everyone was included in the celebration of Christmas. Libby Custer recalled that our Christmas on the frontier was a greater event to us than to anyone in the States. We all had to do so much to make it a success. For one day, the men and women on post were equals. Enlisted men and officers took meals together. The children of officers and laundresses played together, and everyone enjoyed culinary delicacies not on the normal Army menu. Roasted turkeys, pigs, chickens, pheasant, goose, duck, and bison appeared in mess halls and dinner tables. Eggs, apples, oranges, canned oysters, and dried fruit shipped from the East delighted men whose normal fare was monotonous. Desserts like plum pudding, fruit pie, cookies, and towering cakes with thick icing were coveted and enjoyed by all. Just like the women of Fort Lyon made sure that Francis had little gifts, laundresses oftentimes made little presents for the soldiers they tended. Officers' wives baked cakes and took to the enlisted men's mess halls, and everyone joined together to dance and sing. In addition to merriment, post chapels were brimming with worshipers for Christmas services. Invitations for officers and their families to visit neighboring posts on Christmas were a real treat. Francis recalled that their celebration at Fort Lyon in 1873 was a huge success. We did not dream that so many invitations would be accepted from faraway posts, that parties would come from Fort Leavenworth, Fort Riley, Fort Dodge, and Fort Wallace, for a long ambulance ride was necessary from each place. Using their hospital ward as a ballroom, the officers of Fort Lyon hosted their guests in grand fashion. The next day, however, order returned to post, and everyone assumed their duties with lovely memories of Christmas.
I want to send a very special Merry Christmas wish to the men and women of our armed forces and their families this holiday season. I hope you'll join me next week as we embark on another historical adventure somewhere around Kansas. Merry Christmas!
I want to thank my friends Marla Matkin, Barb Bland, Jane and Cecil Pierce, and especially Don Bland for making Santa's appearance possible.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Ho, ho, ho! And we will see you somewhere around Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.